Good morning. Now we are going to do lesson 1.3 subtracting integers. Our essential question is, how do you subtract integers? We are going to learn how to do it in 3 different ways. The first one is by using counters, by using a number line, and by adding the opposite. Modeling integer subtraction. You can use counters to find the difference of two integers. In some cases, you may need to add 0 pairs. Okay, the first one is pretty simple. Start with 4 negative counters. 1, 2, 3, 4. Take away 3 negative counters to represent subtracting 3. So we're going to get rid of this 3. What is left? Negative 1. So the difference of negative 4 minus negative 3 is just negative 1. That's pretty simple. But now we get into a situation where we are going to need 0 pairs. Now remember, a 0 pair is when you have a negative counter and you have a positive, and together they make a 0 pair. Because what we are saying is that negative 1 plus 1 equals to 0. Okay, that's a 0 pair. And we are going to be adding 0 pairs to be able to find the difference. Okay, start with 6 positive counters to represent 6. Okay, let's do that. 6 positive counters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You need to take away 3 negative counters. We don't have any negative counters. Therefore, we need to add 3 0 pairs to be able to count for those extra negative counters that we need to take away. So we're going to have to form 3 0 pairs because we are technically adding 3 zeros. There we have those 3 0 pairs. Again, I added the 3 0 pairs because I didn't have enough negatives to subtract. So now I do have enough negatives to subtract, and I can just get rid of them. Okay, so what is left? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 positive counters. So the difference of 6 minus negative 3 is positive 9. Okay, again, we use 0 pairs when we don't have enough negatives to subtract. Okay, let's try one more. Model negative 2 minus negative 5. Start with 2 negative counters. 2 negative, and I got this from here. Okay, so 1, 2. You need to take away blank counters. We need to take away 5 negative. So we need to take away this 5. But we don't have enough, so we have to add 0 pairs to be able to subtract. So how many? Well, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to need to add 3 more. 3 0 pairs so that I can subtract the 5. Okay, so now I take away the 5 negative counters. So I get rid of them. what is left? 3 positive counters. Find the difference of -2 plus -5. Find the difference of -2 minus -5. And the answer is +3. Okay, so in the first strategy, we learned that we have to add 0 pairs to be able to subtract when we don't have enough negatives. Okay, so this one you do on your own. Communicate mathematical ideas. Suppose you want to model the difference -4 minus 7. Okay, do you need to add 0 pairs? If so, why? And how many should you add? What is the difference? So I suggest that you solve this problem by using negative counters, and then you'll be able to answer all of the questions. Make sure that you answer all 4 questions. Okay, on our next strategy, so subtracting on a number line. So you already know, for this one, we have this special rule that will make your life a lot easier. So go ahead and get a piece of paper and write this rule when adding or subtracting integers, and put that behind your math tab. So rule number 1 says that whenever we subtract a positive is the same thing as adding a negative. In your notes, you can pause the video so that you can copy it and then continue. Alright, so now that we have the rule, I know right now it doesn't make a lot of sense, but I will explain it a little bit better. Okay, now, subtracting on a number line. So you already know how to subtract on a number line. So 5 minus 3, you start at 5 and then you move 3 to the left. 1, 2, 3. You land on 2, and that would be your answer. So that is 5 minus 3. That's our rule. When you subtract a positive, it's the same thing as adding the negative. Okay. So these two will give you the same answer. The first one was you start at 5, you take away 3, you end at 2. The second one says you start at 5 and then you add 3 negatives. 1, 2, 3, you still end at 2. So it's the same thing, just worded differently. Adding a positive is the same as adding a negative. Adding a positive is the same as adding a negative. Okay. Now let's get on example A. Oopsie. Find -1 minus 5 on the number line. Rewrite the subtraction as addition of the opposite, which is the rule that we have. Rewriting subtraction as addition of the opposite is the rule that we had up here. So we have -1 minus 5. The opposite would be -1 minus 5 is the same as -1 plus, now we have to do the opposite, would be -5. I just want to bring to your attention that here, it's what's telling us to subtract. This right here is telling us that the 1 is negative, and positive numbers, we usually don't write the positive sign in front of them unless it's necessary. So now start on your number line, you start at -1 because that is your first integer. So we are going to start at -1, and then we're going to move 5 units to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We land at -6. So the difference is -6. Okay, the key is to first find the opposite by using rule number 1 and then using the number line to subtract. Okay, let's try letter B now. We have -7 minus -3. Rewrite subtraction as addition of the opposite, or rule number 1. -7 minus -3 is -7 plus 3. -7 and move 3 units to the right. The difference is, start at -7, 3 units to the right, 1, 2, 3, -4. Your answer is now -4. If you found a difference using counters, would you get the same result? Explain. So find this on the number line and then tell me if using counters would be the same. If you're not sure, go ahead and use counters and figure it out. Then make sure to explain. I'm going to show you rule number 2. Rule number 2 says that whenever you are adding a positive, it's the same thing as if you were subtracting a negative. Okay, rule number 2 says that adding a positive is the same as subtracting a negative. So I have the other rule right there. Make sure that you have those rules written down on your page. Pause the video so that you can copy them. Alright, so now we have the scenario that says the temperature on Monday was -5 degrees Celsius. By Tuesday, the temperature rose to -2 degrees Celsius. Find the change in temperature. Whenever we find the change, we are finding the difference. Okay, so find final temperature minus Monday's temperature gives us the change. Okay, so -2 was the final temperature minus the one on Monday. That's the equation. Step 2, find the difference. Okay, so we have to find the opposite because we said that subtracting a negative is the same as adding a positive. The temperature decreased by 3 degrees. What if, in example 1, the temperature rose by 3 degrees. Suppose it fell from -2 degrees to 10 degrees. Predict, remember predict means to guess, to an educated guess based on what we learned, not just randomly, whether the change in temperature would be positive or negative, and then subtract to find the change. That you will be doing on your own. Okay, so now we get to the guided practice. Do these ones on your own, and I will be checking them on Monday, and we will be reviewing them. So if you have any questions, send me a message and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right, see you Monday.